United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, too, Puerto Rico.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Beyond the Stage. My name is Ruth Egerman. I'm the Director of Marketing at Livermore Valley Arts, and I'm with our host and Executive Director, Chris Carter. Say
Hey
hi,
there.
Chris.
Hi.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
So today we got to talk to Rob Paulsen and Randy Rogel, both from Animaniacs. They'll be performing here with a show called Animaniacs Live on April 5th. So you don't want to miss it. And after listening to this interview, you definitely don't want to miss it. It's so you'll want to get your tickets at livermorearts.org or by calling the box office at 925-373-6800. That interview was so much fun. I think it might be one of my favorites.
They were hilarious. And
Hilarious.
the best is like when he started doing the voices
Yeah.
of the characters. That was my favorite. He had no qualms about that either. He was willing to do that, and he was really funny.
Oh, they live inside your head, apparently. They become, I mean, I thought that was really interesting. And especially as it related to the story about Mel Blanc and how they become part of who you are. Mm-hmm. And you start to think like them. You start to answer as if you're them. It was really interesting.
Yeah, and the impact that these characters have on people, and the songs, and the success of the show and the music. I mean, there's so much that you could talk about, and they covered a lot. They did a really nice job. Randy even showed us his Emmy, which was kind of cool.
That was
happened to be right next to him.
Yeah, that's where I would keep it if I had one.
Yeah,
right next to me.
Here's my
Just
Emmy.
carry it around.
Yeah.
Put it on my on the hood of my car as a car ornament.
It was bigger than I thought it would be. It was pretty big.
So Randy Rogel, who's the songwriter, music writer, everything, all of that came through him, and Rob Paulsen, who's the voice actor. Do you identify with either one of them? Did you find yourself identifying with either one? Like, do you want to be, I know you have a music background, but if you were to choose one of those things.
Oh, definitely the songwriter.
Yeah.
I think I'd have a hard time doing voiceover or acting or anything like that. Or maybe not, I don't know. But I really liked Randy, especially when he talked about the creative process, and they just have, and it's kind of like you're not. One of them said something. You don't have to wait for the muse, because you're kind of on the deadline and on the clock, and you just kind of keep working at it, and it's it's pretty amazing how he's able to do that. Yeah, I was really impressed.
I think I would be much more into the voiceover work.
Yeah,
I like doing it. Sometimes I do it for here.
It sounds fun for sure.
Yeah, it seems like a really cushy job in the way that everybody wants to do it.
But so he said, you show up in your flip-flops and you just
you get paid and
do your thing.
Get to take on a character with a funny voice, or maybe it's your own voice or whatever. Oh, I was just we were talking about Seth Rogen. I think I might have seen an interview with him, who did a voice, and I can't remember the show that he did it for, and they had asked him to do voiceover work, and apparently he was like, I don't do voices. Like, that's not who I am as a person. That's not the kind of actor. So it was just Seth Rogen as
just his voice.
Just his voice.
My sister tells me if I was doing voiceover, she said I sound kind of like a Muppet. So she said you could do the Muppets. So I don't know what that means or says about my voice, but
that to me sounds like something only a sister would say to you.
You sound kind of like a Muppet. Okay.
I'm not sure that's meant to be a compliment, Chris.
I didn't really take it as one. I just
I don't know. one of those, one of those, it would be so much fun to have like the Muppets up in the theater, those two theater Muppets.
Yeah, the old
Yes,
guys.
yeah, sitting in our theater one day. That would be really fun. A
Yeah, I
Muppet
would
show
love
would
that.
be really great fun. Maybe it was a compliment, Chris. I love the Muppets.
Everybody loves the Muppets, right? They're
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, they're the best.
So you
And
you didn't watch Animaniacs, you said, because you were busy, but what cartoons did you watch growing up?
so I grew up when cartoons were only on Saturday morning.
Yep.
So I loved Bugs Bunny. I loved all of the Looney Tunes. That was probably my favorite. And then I, like a group of friends, and I would watch Scooby-Doo in the afternoon after school. When I was like in high school, we got really into watching Scooby-Doo. So I know a lot of the Scooby-Doo shows until Scrappy Doo showed up, and then you're like, nah,
Kind of ruined
jump the
it.
shark. Yeah, jump the shark. So I would say that those are the cartoons that I watched. And then of course, when my kids were born and they were growing up, there were, they got into their own cartoons, and some of them I've watched. So Family Guy was a big one in our household. We loved Family Guy. Every now and again, I'll turn on South Park, which I
Hmm.
find very funny. I'm not very much of a cartoon person. My oldest, Frankie, was at our house during Labor Day weekend, and she watches a bunch of Japanese anime, and so I was watching some of that with her, and it is absolutely fascinating, but it's not anything that I think about turning on again.
Hmm.
What about you? What did you watch, and what did your kids watch?
Um, well, my kids watched a lot of Disney stuff on the Disney Channel, and like, well, I don't know if this was Disney, but they watched a lot of Dora the Explorer and stuff like that when they were little. SpongeBob has always been popular.
Oh yeah,
Um,
SpongeBob was a huge one in
yeah,
our house as
SpongeBob was
well.
big.
Yeah,
When I was a
still is
kid,
big.
yeah, I mean, I was born in '74, so I kind of grew up mostly with Saturday morning cartoons too. And I loved the Looney Tunes. Smurfs. I had to watch the Smurfs. I couldn't miss that one. That was one of my favorites. Um, and then what else? I don't know. I liked He-Man. I watched a lot of He-Man after school.
Yeah,
I,
we
I
had
had I had a friend that had all the He-Man toys, which I thought was so cool. Uh,
yeah,
but I really like
we
that
watched.
show.
Have you seen? It's more current. Have you seen Bob's Burgers?
I've seen a few episodes. That's a funny
Yeah,
show.
it's a good one. They have, not. They have a lot of music in their cartoon as well, in that animation series, which is a lot of fun. So now I think between now and when Animaniacs shows up to the theater in April, I'm definitely going to sit down and watch it, and especially the music, because the music
Yeah,
sounds like it's really fun.
it's
You know,
really a clever show and
yeah.
well
Did
done.
your kids watch it?
No, it kind
Sort of
of
missed
was
that.
before their time.
Yeah,
Um, my sister watched it a lot. She's about 6 years younger than me, and so it was, she was kind of that prime age in the '90s when it came out.
yeah,
So I think she watched it a lot. So
yeah.
she's pretty familiar with it. But,
That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be a great, fun show. And as they said, one that's going to bring out the kid in all of us, and definitely one that's safe for all the kids too.
yep.
So, bring the whole family is
Yeah,
what
I
I
can't
would
wait.
say.
After that interview,
Yeah,
I'm really excited about it.
I know it's going to be super fun. They were
Yep.
so much fun to talk to. Stick around, everybody, because coming up next is Rob Paulsen and Randy Rogel. Enjoy the interview, and we'll see you at the theater.
How are you doing?
Good. I mean,
Yeah,
I was in Croatia.
Croatia.
Yes, I was bike riding with these friends. It was a trip planned a long time ago. COVID had kind of put things on, but so we were bike riding in Croatia for like 2 weeks, and I'm back. And we just did a concert. Went really great this last
Yeah.
Friday night. Rancho
You
Cucamonga.
were
But
When you
were-
bike ride, are you like doing, is it like mountain biking? Or are you just going on
well, we're on a
these
paved road,
mountains?
but I do a lot of biking. So I don't know if you do, Chris. So I would use everybody else uses electric bike. It's kind of nice because it evens the odds. But me and the guy run regular bikes.
Yeah.
So big hilly climbs, but that's the
Wow.
good part. So yeah.
You do that often?
I mean, I bike ride is my exercise because running
Yeah.
beats me up now. If I run, I just like pounds me, and I'm boring. Swimming is boring, so I ride my bike. I just rode it yesterday. I live in Toluca, like right next to the studio, so I can go up to the observatory. If you know LA, there's the LA
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Park Observatory. I just ride up there because it's a big long ride uphill.
Yeah,
And,
you like those climbs, huh?
yeah,
I
well,
ride
'cause-
my
yeah.
Most people like going downhill.
I
Yeah,
ride
that's-
I ride my bike too.
Oh, okay.
I try to commute as many days as possible on my bike, but every now and again I have something that I have to do at night or something like that with work.
I
that-
love it now because it's so non-impact, and
Yeah.
going up the hills just because the hills are here put me in better shape to do the Croatia trip. So
Well, have you ever been to Livermore before, Randy?
yes, I have. A long time ago, when I was in corporate life, when I got military, I was with a company called Digital Systems. I went out to, was it AT&T or Pacific Bell that was out in Livermore?
Yes. Yeah, there's an old AT&T building out here.
And then my nephew lives there now.
Mhm.
He's an engineer, and so because I remember going out through all those green valleys with those big windmills, it was
Yep.
so cool.
Yeah,
Is it a bit?
I live right by those windmills. It's crazy. Like I look out my bedroom window and there are these like 6 or 7
So,
windmills right across
those
the street from
windmills,
me.
How much energy, Ruth, do those like with one turn of the propeller? How much energy does that thing? And does it power batteries?
They've been out here. I moved to California in 1988 when I was in high school. And I remember we drove through Livermore and those windmills were there, and they've gotten bigger over the years. And now they're massive. And if you see like a truck with like just one blade going by,
Yeah,
it's like one of the coolest things. They're ginormous.
Hey, Roberto. There, ladies and gentlemen,
Rob,
Yakko and Pinky are in the house, among other.
Uh-oh.
And they're all living right up here, and it's pretty goddamn crowded. I'll tell you that. Hi, Ruth and Chris. Nice to see you.
how good. Nice to see you too. How you doing?
I'm breathing. I'm not in jail. Day's not over yet. It's still early. I've got time to screw it up. Thank you very much. So far so good. And man, look at all those groovy axes on your wall there,
Oh,
pal.
thank you.
Those a couple of
I
strats.
know. I was going to ask. You are obviously a musician, Chris.
Wow, you got
I play the guitar a little bit, but yeah, I have a couple of guitars behind me, and in my office at work, I got a couple. It's just kind of it's a bad habit. For some reason, they keep amassing themselves around me.
Oh, listen. Well, you know what? Better that than empty liquor bottles. But
You know what? We could use a guitarist on stage. Mark Mann's not available, so we could use it.
good
I
for
know
you.
a lot of good guitarists around here, so if you need a recommendation, let me know.
Well,
Great.
our guy is Mark Mann, who does all of Danny Elfman's movies, the vocal range, all that.
Yeah.
He's an unbelievable guy. And I was watching it was the induction of George Harrison into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and there's Eric Clapton, Jeff Lynne, Paul McCartney, and center stage playing lead guitar was Mark, our guy. I was like,
great.
Nice.
Mark, I called him. I said, "You did this with?" He goes, "I said, how come you never told me?" He goes, "Well, you never asked." So
Yeah, it was pretty mind blowing. Ringo was there, Danny Harrison. We just released a new record, George's Boy. It was pretty cool to see our the guy who goes with us on our little Animaniacs show.
Well, it's interesting that he didn't tell you, because usually guitarists like to be the center of attention. So.
he's out of the drummer.
Well, listen, now it's cartoon people. I mean, at our show, I tell people I have an ego with my own area code, so we're going to do a couple of encores, like it or not,
Love it. No, we love it.
Thank you
Well,
for having us.
Rob, Ruth is our marketing director, and I'm the executive director here, and we're really looking forward to having you guys come out. And Randy, I wanted to ask you something real quick.
Sure.
I've known everybody I talk to who's like of a certain age says they know all their capitals thanks to you. Is that weird that you've made everybody around us smarter, apparently?
Well, isn't that nice? I get that a lot, like at concerts, people, I know the nations of the world. When we were doing it, that wasn't my goal. I was just trying to crack you up, it's going to crack people up. But I did get one sort of nice little pat on the back from our president of Warner Animation was Gene McCurdy, who was kind of mom, for all of us. And back when we were doing this in the 90s, remember there was it was called the Republican Revolution, and Newt Gingrich became the speaker.
Gingrich, yeah.
And they began to enforce the FCC regulations. It's like, I didn't realize, but in it says you have to do a certain amount of educational programming for kids. That's in your contract to have a license to broadcast on the airwaves that Congress gives you, right? So they came up and they said, all we're seeing is G.I. Joe and, these toy companies selling us this. Where's your educational stuff? So Gene took our stuff from Animaniacs, the songs, and went to Congress and showed them that, and they went, "Oh, okay." No, so
Great.
You're good.
He said, "Good
That's
job."
awesome.
I said, "Well, I wasn't trying to, but we're teaching kids the plays of Shakespeare. We're teaching
Yeah.
geography, science, politics." So I'm happy to hear that I helped some kids learn the capitals.
Well, I was gonna ask you too. Did you ever do a song about the periodic table of elements?
This is a really good question, Chris. Because I did that list song with that Rob sings so beautiful all the countries, right? So we get fan mail at the studio. So it went to Jean. So she gave me a letter. She says, "I think this is for you." And it had that exact question. Someone says, "Hey, listen, I know you did the countries of the world states. Why don't you do the periodic table?" I said, "Because Tom Lehrer already did it perfectly, and I can't improve on it." But because he goes antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, and
Oh yeah.
right to I am the very model of a major general. But here's the corollary to that story. I was reading an interview that he did, because the guy is a genius. I mean, his catalog. And somebody asked him, "Why didn't you ever do, because you did those list songs, why didn't you ever do all the countries of the world?"
That it's already been done.
No, because
Oh, you hadn't done it?
I was probably a kid at that time. He says, "I tried, but I just couldn't figure out how to make it work. I just couldn't do it." So I thought, oh my God, if Tom couldn't do it, and I couldn't do the periodic table, so that was a real compliment for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I was asking you that because in Livermore, one of the things they're very proud of is the fact that there's an element named after Livermore, which is Livermorium. If you somehow threw that into a song or something at the show when you come out here, people will freak out. So I just wanted to.
But we will throw Livermore, not Livermorium, but we will.
Okay.
We will say Livermore. Yeah, we'll say again.
On the time song.
Oh, we go. So remember, when you're traveling from Nantucket to St. Paul and you're standing at that airport with those clocks upon the wall, that you should think about this song, my friend.
No.
It's from, how does it go?
There really is no miracle. That difference in our birth. Because the world is spherical. That's why around the earth,
there are always different times for London, Moscow, Livermore, and Fort Worth. Yeah. No.
All right. Well, good job.
Okay.
This
You'll win
interview's
them
over.
over. You'll win over the audience. Sure.
Also, Randy, so you went to West Point, is that right? And you were an engineer, and then you had this this other career that sounded like it was going pretty well. Then you just decided to move to LA and sleep on your friend's couch or something. Is that right?
Excuse me, Randy, I'm talking about you. Randy is the single most driven, prolific, accomplished human I know. I mean, I don't hang around with everybody.
He doesn't know a lot of people, right?
But I'm telling you, man, West Point, Boston University, all this, I mean, forget it. And then goes to New York, LA, and then becomes this guy. And he just got done writing his own musical that's in London right now. I mean, and the guy, how old are you, Randy? You're 92 now or something like that? 93?
Hey, I just rode my bike in Croatia, so I can still do it.
That's right. And he just rode a bike in Croatia.
I like to tell my friends, people, it's all those music lessons I took at West Point that.
Capizios.
The truth is, I grew up in San Diego doing a lot of theater. And so I was exposed to, really good stuff at an early age. Then I left to go get an education, and we didn't have much money. And West Point was a free education, not really free, because then you owe your 5 years or 6 years, because I did my graduate work in the military, plus your 4 years as a cadet. So it was like 10 years of my life. But I didn't want to make the military my career. Although some of my closest friends are guys that went through that, are still in the military. But then I went into corporate life, and that's what moved me to Seattle. I got back into theater, but I always wanted to work in film and television. So that's when I got in my car, drove to LA, slept on a friend's couch, and started writing spec scripts and stuff, trying to break in.
This is one of those things where Randy, being with Randy is always not only an incredible joy. I mean, when you're able, you guys know this, we're in the happy business, and we're in the creative business. When you get a chance to work with people who will become your lifelong friends, and you've gotten to watch their stars rise to the extent that they kind of go, wow, Oscars, Tonys, Emmys, all this, and you've known these people more than half of your life, it is a remarkable thing to behold. And then to be in a position where you'll see at our show, which is an absolute labor of love still, and I get the best seat in the house. When Randy's doing his thing, I look out and everybody is doing this. Some of them are going, and it's the coolest thing in the world, and it just makes everybody happy. It's incredible.
Well, the truth of this is, Chris, Rob, and when we have Maurice, or when we had Jess or Tristan, they're the stars of the show. And I do like to tell people, for me, I'm the guy, like, I represent like writers, composers, directors, artists. We don't get in front of the audience, get that opportunity like Rob and Reese and Trust Jess do, because we're in an office and a studio, and on a lot. And so what a treat it is for me. I never get to hear how people react to what I write or compose. So when we do the stage show, it's such a delight for me to be able to actually see the audience reaction to the stuff. So that's
is it when you're on the stage versus in the studio, like, what's the difference, Rob? Like, because I mean, do you get more excited being on the stage in front of a live audience?
I do, because we all kind of started that way. I'm another example of someone who came from I came from Michigan a million years ago and drove my little Honda out with my mother standing on the porch back in Michigan in her chenille bathrobe, going, oh my, just like the movies. But like a lot of folks who do what we all do, what happened when I moved to LA to ostensibly do what I was trained to do, music, looking to do TV, all that, and I was a singer first, and I was doing that episodic television. In those days, it was like Hill Street Blues and MacGyver and, oh my God, St. Elsewhere. The shows were done in the late 1800s, and lots of commercials, all of that. But what happens often is we put ourselves in a position to get lucky. I got to LA, and I'd been there, I don't know, 10 years or so, and I was doing just exactly what I said, even though my whole background was like Randy's, live performance. And my agent said, you ever thought about doing animation? I said, well, sure, but there are this many people who do all of it, because in those days it was all Saturday morning. There's no, I mean, I have to go back and go through my mind about what was not there. Satellite, flat screens. This was before VHS, for God's sake. Yeah, so I said, sure. I auditioned. I started getting more work. And the best thing about it was I used to go out into sessions going, wait a minute, I know all these actors. She was on Bob Newhart. He was on Laugh-In. He's on Hogan's Heroes. All these people I grew up with, and I recognized them, and they're all having a blast, dressed in T-shirts and shorts and sandals, getting paid really well to be a monster or to be, you meddling kids, whatever.
Tell them when you sat next to the king.
Oh, this is a gas. I remember I was working on a Jetsons project. I played Judy Jetson, the Judy Jetson, Janet Waldo, who was Judy Jetson from the 60s. And she was same age as my parents. But I played her boyfriend, sang a bunch of music, and I got to work one day, and our director, Gordon Hunt, who the late great Gordon Hunt was also Helen Hunt's father.
Helen Hunt's dad. Yeah.
Yeah, really, really just a wonderful man. He said, "Hey, Robbie, Mel's here. You want to sit next to Mel Blanc today?" I said, yeah. So I sat next to Mel, and I don't know, 32, 33. And how you doing, son? Nice. Very well, Mr. Blanc. Thank you. And finally I thought, you know what, you're never going to get this chance again. Mr. Blanc was almost 80 and he passed away shortly after, but he was doing his gig. And I said, Mr. Blanc, if it's not too much trouble, like anyone with a pulse, I'm such a huge fan. Would you, and before I could get it out of my mouth, he looks at me and says, "Yeah, what's up, Doc?" And I lost my mind. So that is a roundabout way of saying it is still the best part of performing for me to do it live, except for the fact that when we do it in the traditional sense and all of us are in a studio together, that's the show. When you're in a room with that group of people on both sides of the glass, Andre Romano and Tom Ruger and Steven Spielberg, and then Maurice LaMarche and Tress MacNeille and Frank Welker and all these superstars, it's remarkable. But there is nothing for an old board trotter like yours truly to, and Randy, I would submit too, to do live performance, especially when we're fortunate enough to have something that has left a legacy of remarkable joy.
Look, it includes the audience, you know, because it's very back and forth. You know, Rob is so perfect at improv. They'll engage you. There's been times they get going. I have to say, "Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have to get back to the show now."
Oh yeah, we have too much fun.
When we're in the in the studio and they're recording behind the other glass, we can always stop and do another take or whatever. Once the show starts, you can't stop and go back. You know,
but you don't do improv when you're doing the voiceover acting, right? You have to follow the script, right?
Oh no, tons of it. Well,
I do tons of improv.
Really.
Yeah, well,
they're not supposed to, but they do it anyway.
And this is a really interesting point. The reason I believe, having done thousands of these and having been on more than my share of arguably iconic shows, Ninja Turtles a couple of times, Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain twice, Jimmy Neutron, The Tick, stuff that's really good. It really is a collective. That is to say, I and all my compatriots have a pretty solid improv background. It was just a matter of course and learning to perform. And the scripts are so good that all they do is inspire you to go, "Oh my God, let me try this." And without, I really can't remember, I'm sure it happened, but almost without fail, if an actor says, "Hey, Randy, I've got an idea on line, blah, blah, blah. Can we just do another take? I want to try something." And you try something and usually everybody laughs. And if it works, they say, "Great, let's put it in." If it doesn't, all it does is allow people the freedom to do what they're really good at. And then all that creativity, irrespective of whether one of my answers to "Are you pondering what I'm pondering" gets into the mix, that creativity unquestionably, Chris, ends up on the screen. It really is something. And
sometimes oftentimes they'll come up with a better line than the writers did.
But the egos are just gone. I mean, everybody likes to get paid, like to win a statue, all that's great. But man, when you have lightning in a bottle and you get people who really understand that the collective is what makes this work.
Yeah.
I don't write them. I'm good at my job. Jesus, I ought to be. But it's the characters who are famous. And when everybody works with that sensibility, it's pretty remarkable what happens. Bugs is 85. I was watching Bugs this weekend, seeing things I saw in the 60s. And I thought, oh my God, that's fantastic.
Everybody has to bring their game, you know, the writer, the performer, the director, the musicians, everybody has to be on their game or you can have a weak link.
One quick thing, what would happen, we all, as a result of Animaniacs, we had, Mr. Spielberg, we had a 35, 40-piece orchestra for every half hour, just like Carl Stalling and Milt Franklin for Looney Tunes. A full orchestra, incredibly expensive, with world-class musicians. Every time I or Jess or Tress or any of Maurice would go to watch in awe these players play, and Randy talks about this in the show, they look at the music and they say, "Yeah, my wife's Lexus is having a transmission trouble. Ready to go? Okay, blah, 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 and just they hammer it. Every time we would go in there,
They can read notes faster than you can read words.
it's crazy. And what is a perfect example of that collaborative spirit, when we would walk in to watch these musicians sitting there going, how long has that guy played the oboe? He's amazing. And they found out that we were there, they would flip out. And I'm going, what? Wait a minute. I just saw you play 30-second notes, like, and you're freaked out because you say, hello, nurse. You know, it's crazy. Oh. It's the cool. Anyway, thanks. You never know I was Yakko because I haven't shut up for.
Okay.
I have a question.
Please.
You brought up improv.
Yeah.
You said you did it during Animaniacs. I understand doing it on the stage.
Yeah.
That's easy. So which brings to me the question, and I try to let the magic be the magic. So sometimes I just don't find out about stuff purposely,
right,
so that I can enjoy an animation or, you know, a show, a play, whatever it might be, without putting my, 30 plus years of theatrical experience there. Right. So tell me how so it sounds to me like you record the script before it's drawn. Is that correct? Can you talk about that process? Like, how does it work?
And it works that way for the songs too, Ruth. Like we'll if I write a song, they'll lay down a simple little track, like the music director, but certainly for the dialogue. And the reason you want to do that, you want to bring the actors in like rubbers, because then you get their performance. And then as the guy's drawing them, whatever the character goes, what? They draw it like that. You never want to do it the other way, because then the action.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not locked in.
And did you guys use, I know that you were both involved on the reboot as well, correct? So how much of that changed? Because I mean, from the early 90s to 2023, there's bigger, there's more CGI, there's more things like that. Like how did the process change for you in those two different eras of animation?
Well, certainly.
I helped peripherally. I wasn't on staff. So Rob, you're probably the better one to answer that.
Yeah, in terms of my process, Ruth, it didn't change. I mean, the recording, the technical recording stuff has changed a lot. For me, when I was a kid, it was all about 1/4-inch tape around their neck and they're splicing things, and that's all gone. But what did change significantly in the reboot was the zeitgeist. So there were jokes that we couldn't make anymore, understandably. And as much as all of us would have preferred that it was the whole gang, all the writers and everybody who all grew up together to get back, I believe it's easy for me to say because I was part of it. However, I believe that they made a good call to hire a bunch of writers who were the same age the writers were on the original stuff, because all these new writers grew up understanding jokes on YouTube, jokes that
Instagram, Facebook,
things like that. In fact, they did a very smart thing. If you listen to the opening title sequence, which we re-recorded, it's the first half is anime, where pay or play contracts, blah, 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 blah. Okay, then it goes.
But Bill Clinton plays a sax or something.
Yeah, well, in the first half. Then in the original second half, meet Pinky and the Brain, who used to rule the universe. Okay, now it goes something. Let's see, gender balanced, pronoun neutral, and ethnically diverse. The trolls all say we're so passé, but we did meta first. Boom. That was genius. And
your show, you had a lot of adult humor, especially in the early days. And did you ever think there's no way they're going to let us get away with this, and then it just goes through? I mean,
they were the censors and the networks and the BS&P. I had one. What was it in the earthquake song? When I said
Kicking our asphalt.
Yeah, whose fault? Whose fault? The San Andreas' fault?
Because Mr. Rector kept
kicking our
kicking our
asphalt.
asphalt.
And they, we managed to slip that pass, but I don't know how they did that. But yeah,
Well,
they were all over us all the time. Well, thank God we had sort of Spielberg, on our side, because he carried a lot of.
we did a joke in the first go around where Yakko was they called him like Yakko Poirot, Hercule Yakko, like Yakko, or like Hercule Poirot. And he's walking around looking for clues, and I'm gonna dust for Prince. And they cut to Dot, and she's holding Prince, the musician. And then they cut back to Yakko, and he goes, no, fingerprints. And she looks at Prince, she goes, I don't think so, and tosses him out the window. And I remember that joke, and I looked at Tress and I said, never in a million years. It got through, and to this day, people who are maybe my age and now have grandkids, they'll say, how did you get that fingerprint slide through? I don't know. And then somebody showed me from Warner Brothers years ago, they showed me a print of a letter that was from Paisley Park when Prince said, great joke, haha. And I thought, man, that's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Well, kids are more sophisticated than I think we give them credit for, right? And they can handle a joke.
Yeah, that was the edict from the top, Chris. At the beginning was with Tom Ruger, his genius. It was all about, we are not going to condescend to the audience. I learned that Kill the Wabbit was Wagner from watching Bugs. And I thought, oh my God, that's great. I heard Kill the Wabbit in Apocalypse Now.
Mm-hmm.
Kill the Wabbit, kill the Wabbit.
I know. When I actually had I think I told them this in the show. There was an exec from Warner Brothers. I was writing these songs, and he said, these songs might be too hip for the room. You really should be writing more in the style of Barney.
Yeah.
And I said, no, man. I said, kids are a lot smarter than you think they are. And
Yeah.
fortunately, Steven Spielberg and Tom Ruger agreed with that. So we were able to keep it going, because there's always the people that are trying to stop you.
Always.
Yeah. Well, good for you guys. Rob, I was going to ask you too, because you mentioned Mel Blanc, and it just occurred to me. I remember this story, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but he was in an accident or something. He was in a coma, and Bugs Bunny kind of pulled him out of that. And,
yes.
Yeah.
It was like such a core part of who he was.
Absolutely. No, it's I've heard that story told by Noel, his son. So I have no doubt that it was true. I'm sure it's been urban legendized a wee bit, but yeah, he was coming over Laurel Canyon and had a really gnarly accident, was in a coma for a while. And according to the legend, which I've heard is pretty similar to what you already said, is
it was the doctor, wasn't it?
Doctors were trying to wake him up, and somehow a doctor said something like, hey, is Bugs Bunny in there or whatever? And you hear, yeah, what's up, doc? And which is a pretty cool thing. And obviously I got to work with him after the fact, so he recovered beautifully. But that story is pretty incredible. I think
there was recently a episode of the podcast Radio Lab, like within the last 6 or 7 months, where they went through that whole story of Mel Blanc.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Talked to his son and all that stuff.
Good.
And it was, they tried from as I recall it, they tried, for days to get him to wake up from his coma, talking to him as Mel. And then a doctor came in and just say, hey, is Bugs Bunny in there?
That's
and
right.
Then all of a sudden they were getting reactions.
But Rob, if that's something like that happens to you, what should we say to you in the hospital room?
You know what usually works, what Randy does, you just slap me across the face and say, you idiot. Jesus, come on, this isn't about you, for God's sake.
Maurice the Martian, and Maurice would go, Pinky, are you there?
I think so, Brain, but if Jack's black and Betty's white, is Marvin gay? Something like that. But and in that vein, or in that context, I should say, what blows my mind every single time, you guys, is the extent to which these characters connect with people. I mean, it's one thing to be the performer, and it's really part of your soul. But the most glorious aspect of our work now is being old enough to have a legacy of characters that seem to affect people in utterly positive ways, but young enough to go around and do this. And we hear stories every single time, often through tears, about you will never know what ... meant to me or meant to my mother, or my brother who had a spina bifida and he made it, he lived till 11, but man, Ninja Turtles, whatever. It's astonishing. It is not about money. It's not about ratings. It's not about merchandise. It is about this pure connection of joy that gets people through really difficult times that none of us would have known about were it not for nice people like you letting us come and do our gig. It's the coolest thing in the world.
Well, I like to tell people, like, with our organization, our product is joy. That's what we sell.
That's what we're in the happy business, Chris.
Yeah.
And
it's such a pleasure to be a part of it,
Oh, that's an honor too. Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. It is something for which all of us have worked, rather a privilege for which all of us have worked very hard. I mean, look, I've been rich and I've been poor. It turns out rich is better, but the Jones I get to work with Randy and to do this job at this level is the same as it was at 20. It none of that goes away.
Yeah.
And I know that because just over the hill from me is Dick Van Dyke. And every time I see a little video of Dick in the Starbucks in Malibu, somebody pulls out a camera. He's 97. And they say, Mr. Van Dyke, do you still supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? And it never goes away. And I really don't know how I got this fortunate.
What is it about the Animaniacs show in particular that just seems to resonate with people? And it did get a lot of awards, and it got a lot of great attention.
You've read our script, because in the beginning, after the first song, I say to Rob, you've done thousands of hours of television, so many voices. I've done dozens of shows. What was it about Animaniacs that we're here after all these years and they rebooted and all that? And that leads right into a song. So you're way ahead of us. You want to tell them what it is, Rob, you think?
Yeah, we say, it's fantastic. The animation for a daily animated show, it's quite good.
Yeah.
The scripts were solid. We had, I think, virtually every writer on the show won an Emmy. There were all a bunch of young writers, directors who got a shot and did things like the late, great Rusty Mills directed Randy's Yakko's World, the first song I recorded for Animaniacs and the first song Randy wrote for Animaniacs. Talk about a high bar. So it really boosted everybody, and we really did have lightning in a bottle. So we talk about all these writers, always this or that. And then I say, and you know what? There's some of these little ditties about the countries and the states, whatever, presidents, they're kind of clever too. And they were written by 50% of the knuckleheads you see before you on stage. And then Randy says, I got to tell you, there was a lot of great voice talent, Maurice, Frank, blah, 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 and you were good too, Rob. And so we have this.
I'd like to say that, Chris, it is true.
Yeah.
That the cast and crew,
yes.
That the cast and crew of Animaniacs walked off with dozens of Emmys, and if the Academy ever finds out, they're going to make us give them that. So,
yeah. So
we won't tell anybody then.
Yeah, not to buy them on eBay when you see a bunch of Animaniacs.
I keep this one on my piano to say,
no way. Oh, that's awesome.
He's got
so cool.
Us an Emmy.
I joke because Randy just is unfailingly brilliant.
Rob.
I say, okay, mister, I've got half a dozen Emmys. I got so many Emmys, I dress them in Barbie clothes.
Randy, what's your process? I like to ask songwriters, like, what's their creative process? Do you think of lyrics first and then write down the music? Do you go on walks? Do you record stuff on your phone? Like, how do you come up with some of this stuff and get it fleshed out?
I think the best answer I heard to that was from Sammy Kahn. Somebody said, which comes first, music or the lyrics? And he said the phone call. But for me, because we were on a show I was on a staff writer show, it just depends on what the needs of the show was. And then basically what you have to do is find what would be a funny, clever song. And generally for me, it's, finding the hook, the idea of it. And then you begin to get a rhythm out of that. And out of that starts to become a song. And then I go back and forth. But that's generally my process. I don't know if that's what works for everybody else. But come see the show, and you're going to see a lot of really terrific songs that came out of that, I think.
Yeah.
Now, we bring up the fact that Randy was charged as a staff writer. So you can't wait for the muse to say, Mr. Saturday, might have gone, but what's for? I don't know. Don't get around much anymore. Okay, hang on a second. It doesn't work that way. And we do songs that are fantastic. We could do, as Randy says in the show, we could do an album of songs that didn't make it. And we use several examples. And the number of times that Randy and any staff writer says, yeah, I don't think so. I want to change this and change that. Look, I got a meeting and we got to ship this in a week. So get it done. Boom, that's it. That's what I think makes Randy's talent so exemplary and so difficult to quantify.
You've got and budgets to keep, so you don't have a whole lot of time. But one of the things that's really fun about this show for people who are out there listening to this, that one of the things you're really going to, I think, find a treat is during the show, we'll do, first of all, a song that everybody knows if you've watched the show, or even if you haven't heard it. We say, now, do you want to hear the original lyrics before they made us cut them? Or do you want to hear a song that was killed, that they wouldn't let us do this song? So you actually get inside the show to see what was.
That's really awesome. I was just going to ask you, was there any song that you were up, not happy about that didn't make it, or something that you really would have loved to get out there?
Here we go.
Well, there is one, and it's never a case of one I wasn't happy about, because if I had a song I wasn't happy about, you would never hear it. I would never submit it for it. So, but there are plenty of times. And we do one. I say, well, here's the song I first wrote, and then Tom wanted something else, so I had to rewrite it and all that. So we give the audience a chance to see how that process takes place. And yeah, the show can only be so long, because otherwise we have so many songs we can do. And what is fun to say, here's one you never got to hear. We do a couple of new ones that I wrote for the new, for the new show.
I went to college in the early and mid 90s, and so it was going on in a lot of dorm rooms. You'd see it. Even it wasn't just for kids. I think a lot of people in their 20s really liked it.
They're the
you
people.
Really hit the nail on the head, because we say that for this show, the stage that you're going to see. Number one, you don't have to be a kid. Our audiences are mostly adult. We do have kids.
The age is probably 40, 45.
Number two, you don't have to know Animaniacs in order to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
So it appeals to everybody.
Yeah.
So, but both of my social media manager, Allie, who's actually going to edit this, she's the Livermore Valley Arts image that you're seeing, and my marketing manager, Andrew, both are of this era. Right. And old enough to have watched it and be the right age to enjoy it. So I asked them what questions they had, and they had a ton. Some that have already been answered. But let me, there was the improv question, definitely one in the process, how you put it all together. One of the questions that came up, and if you're open to talking about it, Rob, and then I have a question for you, Randy, as well. So, Rob, I don't know, was it 2000? I'm not sure when you were diagnosed
about my throat cancer. Yeah.
How crazy is it that here it is? That's your one tool, right?
Well,
and that's where it gets you. So
it really got my attention, Ruth. I'll tell you, trust me, the twisted cosmic irony was not lost on me. I thought, okay, it couldn't be pinky or brain. I shouldn't say brain. Pinky cancer, toe cancer, hair cancer. It had to be throat cancer. But I'm fine, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because not only was I was told from the beginning. First of all, I was 60 when I was diagnosed. It wasn't like I was 30 with a couple of kids, or I just gotten married, or whatever. It was even if they had said to me, "Look, we're going to keep you comfortable, but you might as well get your stuff together, and you got however much time left." I had nothing about which to be really sad. By any measure, my career was bigger than I'd ever imagined. If you want awards, fine. Great family. My son is happily married. My wife, have a bunch of cash, all that stuff. But that's not what they said. They said, we're pretty sure we can cure you, but before we do, we almost got to kill you. Because it was rough. The protocol is radiation and chemo. And for this, it was, he couldn't eat, couldn't swallow. It was very difficult. Nothing happened to me that I was told, that I wasn't told would happen. But after the fact, my experience, honest to God, really has a platinum lining, specifically because I had that type of cancer. I not only can do my job, but I got to do the reboot. I wasn't sure if I could, and the doctors weren't sure whether I could. But I recall singing the first song I had to sing at the reboot. And I just took a moment. I said, you guys, I'm sorry, I have to take a little breath here. This is pretty incredible that I could get through this and hit the notes. But now, several years after the fact, I've had the privilege of writing a book about that whole experience. And I'm a spokesperson for the Head and Neck, a spokestune for the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance. And as a result of that specific kind of cancer, I've had really a number of experiences in which the following happens. A guy will come up and say, hey, Rob, Mr. Paulsen, I got to tell you, my Uncle Dave was diagnosed with exactly your, stage 3 metastatic. It's already spread, all that stuff. And it's been very difficult. And when the reboot came out, I had read your book, and I was watching the new Pinky and the Brain with my Uncle Dave. And he was, taking his handful of Vicodin and kind of enjoying it between listening to Pink Floyd. And I said, hey, Uncle Dave, Pinky, Rob Paulsen, that guy Pinky, the same guy, they did a reboot. Yeah. Did you know he just got finished a couple of years ago with the same kind of cancer you had? You're gonna do this. You can do this, Uncle Dave. Blows my mind to be able to be in a position where all I have to do is my job, and it can be helpful, maybe even inspirational to someone else.
Yeah.
And absolutely, to me, without question, I get way more out of those interactions than the kind people who explain them to me do. It is something that I never in a million years would have been able to go, oh my God, this is nothing but another groovy layer on this impossible career. I don't want to go through it again, but I'm pretty glad I did, if I had to. So anyway, that's even with me, that's a relatively truncated answer. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
If I might add something, Rob called me to tell me when he said I have cancer, and I have to say, Rob's Rob, you can mute this because I'm going to talk about you now.
La 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 la.
Rob has always been this selfless individual. Very few people in Hollywood, everybody loves them, and Rob is one of those. But during that whole time he went through that radiation, that chemo, and it really beat the crap out of him, I never once heard him complain. Never whine me. And when I was asking how it was going, all he would tell me was how brilliant the doctors were, how brilliant all these other people were that were doing it. And then at the end of it, he thought, I think I can help other people who are going through this. I mean, I think I might write a book with that. And he did. And now it's a big seller, and it has, we go to whenever we go to the concerts, people come to have him sign it. And he can speak to people now. He's always been very good with people. Like, I know some people are on the spectrum that come to see him. He's always so generous with them and takes the time with them. But now someone who has cancer, Rob can talk to them and say, yeah, I know exactly what you're going through. And
what's the name of the book?
It's called Voice Lessons.
Voice Lessons.
The subtitle is how Pinky, Yakko, and a couple of how Pinky, Yakko, and a couple of Ninja Turtles saved my life. And what Randy is referring to, you guys probably know this because it happens all the time in our business. The number of folks on the autism spectrum who, for whatever reason, connect to an animated character, a song, a particular movie, animated, whatever, is astonishing. And it happened last weekend in Rancho Cucamonga. I meet people of adult children on the autism spectrum who will always need help, always. So when a 50-year-old mom and dad bring their 30-year-old son, who at night they have to lay awake thinking, wait a minute, I don't have a trust fund for this kid. What's going to happen when we're gone? And so they bring us to these events, and for that amount of time, that particular young man or young woman is utterly in their element. We hear, my little boy didn't start talking till he was 5, and he heard United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, boom. And for that amount of time, nobody looks sideways at them. They're exactly with the kind of people they should be with. Everybody gets it. And it is the most incredible, unquantifiable compliment to understand that people go out of their way to expose their children who may be struggling with some really difficult challenge, physical or mental, to this stuff. And Randy's music brings them out of their head. Literally, it's the most amazing thing to watch. I'm sorry, one last thing about the whole issue with the cancer and stuff. As a result of this incredible good fortune, long before I was diagnosed, I had, as you can imagine, from the time I was very young, opportunities to call and go visit kids in the hospital. Not just me, we all do it. But when you're gifted with being a ninja frickin' turtle, and every kid in the world wants to talk to Raphael, and then somebody calls from the UK with a child life specialist at the London Children's Hospital and says, we have a young boy here who's 7 with a glioblastoma. There's a very aggressive brain cancer, and he lives for Ninja Turtles, and his favorite turtle is Raphael. Oh my goodness. It made me a better parent. It made me much more patient. It contextualized what a real struggle is. And so when I was diagnosed, I remember I'm in the room where my doctor called me, and he said, how you doing? I said, how am I doing? Well, you got cancer. And I swear to God, the first thing that went through my mind was, you know what? Somebody else in LA is getting the same phone call about their baby.
Mm-hmm.
And suck it up, dude. You can handle this. It has been a privilege to be invited into those impossibly intimate moments. And I can't get enough of it. As long as people are interested, as long as people want to talk to Yakko or Raphael or Pinky or Carl or anybody, I'm in. So thank you for asking.
All that said, I would just like to say our show is hysterically funny.
Yeah.
Lots of fun, animation, music, song, and nonstop laughing.
That's right. We don't
That's
talk
what we're looking forward to.
We don't talk about death too much, except with respect to my career. Other than that.
Ruth, did you have anything else? Because I was going to go into our next phase here.
Go into it.
One of the things we like to do kind of towards the end here is play a game with you guys. If you're up for it. And it's super easy. We do this with all of our podcasts, and we call it either or. And it's a way to get to know you a little bit better. And I'm going to give you 2 options, and you just say which one you like better. You prefer, right? Easy. And Rob, you could do it as Yakko if you want. I'm totally open to that.
He's right here. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but he hasn't started drinking yet. Here we go.
All right. It's going to start out easy. It might get a little bit harder. So first one is sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Sunset. Randy?
Sunrise, because the day is ahead of me.
All right. Mountains or coast?
Coast.
I would say mountains, because I'm gonna ride my bike up it.
You guys are opposite so far here. iPhone or Android?
What'd you say?
iPhone or Android?
Rob?
iPhone.
Yeah, iPhone is what I have, yeah.
All right. You finally agree. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
I would say dogs too, because I have.
By the way, what are Pinky or not? Sorry, Pinky. Yakko and Wack. Are they dogs or what animal are they?
Well, actually, we did a song called "What Are We?"
I wrote that song, Rob.
And Randy wrote that. Okay, what are we? Maybe we're dogs, cute little dogs with ears and tails that we can wag. Hey, let's go find a place and play tag. Ultimately, it goes, we're through this, where are we this, are we that, are we monkey, whatever. Then it goes, because it's Dr. Scratch and Sniff, whom the character I also play, who's the studio psychiatrist. And he says, what are you, kidses? And ultimately, at the end, they say, what we are, dear doctor, is cute.
So what we are is clear and absolute.
Dude,
And the doctor, what we are, doctor, is cute.
It's just, so yeah, it's up to you, whatever.
All right. Thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
I know. Now it's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
There's Maude.
Here we go. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Coke.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Ooh.
Oh boy. Star Wars. Mark's a dear friend, so I'm going to go with Star
I
Wars.
would say, yeah, we're from the generation of Star Trek, but Mark Hamill has been a friend. So we're going to say, we've worked with Mark, so we're going to say Star
Mark a
Wars.
lot. He's
All
a good
right.
friend.
How about Roadrunner or the Coyote?
Oh,
Coyote.
I have to say the Coyote too, because he's the source of the humor.
Right. The Roadrunner is predictable.
It's the the Roadrunner is the catalyst to put him into the position where he's
Right.
And to this day, my favorite thing that made my dad laugh every single time it happened is that genius move by, I guess it was Chuck Jones or maybe Bob
Chuck
McKay.
Jones.
Yeah, but that thing where, wherever the Coyote is, and he ends up with that, those big eyes, bloodshot eyes going, oh, and he's going, I love it at the end. And there's always a little at the bottom when he hits the ground. That
Brilliant.
makes me
I
laugh.
have to say, what really worked for that show is how well acted it was, and that goes to the animators, because basically he'd run off a cliff, right? And then the cloud dissipates, right? And he realizes he's standing on nothing, and he would go, look down, look at you. To make that though, to animate that is really quite something. And by the way, in his final days, I think you knew this, Warner Brothers gave
Great show. Yeah.
gave him an office.
Chuck.
I gave Chuck Jones an office with, I was just kind of a figurehead, but oh my God, we used to go down to his office and sit like kids cross-legged, as he would tell, hold court and tell us all the
Oh, that's
stories.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Elvis or the Beatles?
Beatles.
Yeah, without question for me, it'd be the Beatles.
I was born when Elvis had Hound Dog, but Beatles for sure.
Yeah, my generation was more Beatles. My older sister was more Elvis. Yeah.
All right, the Three Stooges or the Marx Brothers?
Oh man. Well, the Marx Brothers, because Yakko has got Groucho DNA.
I think they were model. And the other thing, when I was a kid, Chris, I used to watch the Three Stooges, and they would hit each other on the head with a hammer. So I was like, ow, that always seems such brutal. Yet I'd go watch Looney Tunes and they'd put dynamite down your pants and drop an anvil on your head. So, but I guess because it was animated, I could buy it. But the Three Stooges, I was like, God, they're hurting each other. So for me, it'd be the Marx.
Yeah, I love Groucho. I was young enough to remember my early memories of watching You Bet Your Life.
Yeah.
Show, and he was doing this the whole set.
Andrew Bird will come down and say, yeah, right.
Fantastic.
Okay, this is a musical question. Major key or minor key?
Major.
Well, as a musician, the minor key is very haunting.
Yes.
Major key is more just straightforward. So probably for me, the minor key is more interesting.
Maybe more creative. I like major keys because it usually reflects a positive, happy song, and that's kind of
true. That's right. Very good. Mm-hmm.
We asked somebody that, and he said, if you want to hit, you go with the major key, but if you want something that you really want to enjoy, you go with the minor.
Hey, about My Funny Valentine? That's C minor, right?
It's all minor, and
flat major, but that's C minor, and got that haunting melody.
All right, we're almost done here. Scooby-Doo or Astro?
Astro. That's my time. Plus, I got to work on Jetsons, so.
Yeah, I would say probably Astro too. But you and I did a Scooby-Doo together. I wrote that remember that one? We did a Scooby-Doo movie together. I wrote the score for it.
Was that
and the Vampire?
Oh yeah, was it
the Vampire?
Yeah. No, I do remember. And our friend Frank Welker, God bless Frank. Frank lives 5 minutes from me. We are 10 years old apart to the day. Frank has been the original voice of Freddy since 1969.
Wow.
And when Don Messick passed, Frank took over Scooby-Doo. And so he's been doing that for probably another, I don't know, 25, 30 years.
Any animal you hear in any movie, live action or not, that's Frank Welker.
It's
Huh.
crazy, crazy.
Okay, here we go. Another musical one. Jazz or blues?
Blaz.
Yes.
That's a really tough one. I guess I'd have to say jazz, but man, I sure love my whole rock and roll background. It's Howlin' Wolf, and, you know, Muddy Waters and all that stuff. But I really appreciate these players.
Roy, Randy, what did you just play?
Jazz.
Jazz. Okay.
We
That's
couldn't
from,
quite hear it. That's a bummer.
Oh, could you hear it? The computer.
No, that's okay. But you were playing some jazz?
Yeah.
Why don't you sing it? Sing whatever you were playing.
Actually, that's from What a Day This Has Been. What a rare mood.
It's almost like being on
I
drugs.
was doing the jazz.
On drugs? Is that what you said? Football or baseball? I see you got a Detroit Lions hat on, Rob.
Football. I love all sports. I'm a hockey player. I played hockey my whole life back in Michigan, but I'm a big Lions fan, and the phrase long suffering was coined for us. But
They're doing pretty good this year.
they're doing very well. And so, yeah, if I had to choose between either one, I'm more of a football hockey guy.
Got it. Randy?
I think football too. I mean, I love baseball, but baseball can be kind of slow, and I love football. It's a faster moving game.
It
All right,
is
almost.
football season.
It is. Yeah, almost done
season
here.
coming up exactly. Yeah.
Pinky or the brain?
Oh, try
Ooh.
the brain, because he's my comic foil. I like him better than I like myself, which says a lot about me psychologically. So I need to work on it. Nerve.
Well, that's like asking which one of your children do you like the best. You know, they're both so brilliant, and
can usually answer
one
that.
does not work without the other.
Yeah, Maurice is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys, I don't know how much animation you watch, but Mo has back-to-back primetime Emmys for Futurama, back-to-back, and let alone Pinky. I mean, let alone the brain. Crazy skill, amazing.
He's the
talent.
king in Frozen. He was the voice of Toucan Sam. He's the voice of Yosemite Sam. I mean, and then if you ever watch Futurama, which is a brilliant show, same crew that did The Simpsons, and he's been on The Simpsons too. But he's a regular and does like 5, 6, 7 voices on thing. He's amazing.
Wow.
Futurama is a show my kids do, or used to. They don't live with me anymore. So
He's Morbo.
And he's Morbo and Kif Troker, and
he's from the Calculon.
Yeah, Calculon. Just
He's
unbelievable talent, and again, the nicest, most unassuming, unpretentious. But I'm telling you, Ruth and Chris, if Mo were here and I poked him with a stick, he would just go, and you guys have to take a break so you can get breath.
He could stand up.
So a little bit like you, huh?
Well, I'm the B team. Mo,
You're the
when
B
Mo
team?
comes in, he lights it up.
All right,
Notice, Ruth and Chris, I love your steakhouse.
Steakhouse, yeah.
I keep meaning to go there someday.
I like Chris.
Okay, we're gonna go.
No kidding. And Chris Carter, I could watch the X-Files all day, man. I don't know what the hell you're doing here with us, but you got, what do you got? $500,000 under the front seat of the Bentley, for Christ's sake.
I appreciate you recognizing me for that. Last one, Livermore on April 5th, when you're going to be here, or anywhere else in the world on April 5th.
Gee, Randy, I think we probably should go with Livermore until the check clears, don't you think?
He's trying to keep us away. We are so excited about coming to your marvelous theater, and it's going to be just a terrific show. You're going to love it.
We're really looking forward to it too.
Randy, bring your bike. It's a great place to ride a bike.
So,
you'll
like
enjoy
I said, my
it.
nephew lives up there, so he and his wife, they're going to come see the show.
No, we're
Awesome.
we're very, very grateful. You guys have opportunities to bring in acts, any act you want, and we know that, and we understand that it is a calculation that you guys have made and said, all right, let's give these guys a shot. We really appreciate it.
We are all listen. The show is really on the move. This week we're in Carmel, Indiana, Middleton, Ohio, Skokie, Illinois, and then the next week after that, we're headed to Elizabethtown, Kentucky. So the show is really on the move. It's doing
It's a
very well.
blast.
Wow.
Fabulous.
No.
Well, we're
I'm
looking
super
forward to
looking
it.
forward to having you guys
Thank
in
you.
the house. It's going to be a lot of fun,
Thank
and
you.
it's going to bring out young and old alike, I think.
It will.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
About the young in the
That'll
old.
bring out the kid in you. If it's
Right.
Exactly.
like the hip song.
Exactly. Well, thank you guys. You're off the hook. We really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
kids.
Thank you,
And
Chris and Ruth. Really nice to meet you both.
What a
Nice
pleasure.
to meet you. Look forward to seeing you in person.
See you
in
soon.
just a few
Take care.
months.
Thanks a lot, you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. They are very entertaining. The show that they put on stage, I'm sure, is going to be even more entertaining.
Oh my gosh, people are gonna love it.
They really are, and they really are.
What
It's
and nice,
a
very nice
no-brainer to
guys.
show up.
Yeah, no brainer. And very nice guys too. Like he just kept talking about gratitude and
Absolutely.
you know, what a good place to come from. And
Incredibly generous with their
Yeah.
time, with their
Yeah.
stories, with their personality. I get the sense that they both feel like they really lucked out, even though they probably
They're
worked
so
really hard
talented.
yeah, they worked really hard. It wasn't an overnight success, but they
Yeah.
feel like they really lucked out. I
Yeah.
wanted to ask them what took them to the stage with the show, but it was good. They were talking so much and their stories were so fascinating that it was just like, okay, another time.
Yeah, no, I think they did a great job. So
Yeah,
it's gonna be a fun show now.
yeah, yeah. So
Did you watch that show ever?
no, I knew that, like, I've seen some of the music, like from YouTube videos. I probably watched that more than the show. I never sat down and watched the show. But I did see, like, I know the Nations of the World song. I've
Mhm.
seen other songs. I mean, they permeated the culture. So you got a chance to see them, through YouTube and stuff. But no, I really wasn't even watching TV when my kids were that young. It
Yeah.
was more like, oh, I'm going to bed, because they were born in the run of that show, basically.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us for Beyond the Stage, featuring Rob Paulsen and Randy Rogel from the Animaniacs, who will be performing live at the Bankhead on April 5th. Get your tickets now at livermorearts.org or by calling the box office at 925-373-6800. I'm Ruth Eggerman.
And I'm Chris Carter.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.